All right, we're back. We got another great guest. We're going to bring on Coach Eatman. He's at North Plainfield High School. I think before that, he might have been at Parsippany, I think. And
yeah, he's been at Parsippany, a couple other spots. We'll let him tell his story.
Yeah, and he's starting to really build. He's going to build that program up. We're going to talk about what it takes to really start building up a program. We'll go into a little bit of his background. Without further ado, let's bring Coach Eatman on. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Coach, appreciate you, man.
We're excited to talk to you. Give everybody a little bit of your playing background, your coaching background, and then we'll roll from there.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Well, I played at South Plainfield High School. That's where I played quarterback. It's actually my rival now as a coach. So that green shirt in my picture that you guys posted, that's gonna make some people mad. It's not good. But anyway, yeah. So I played quarterback at South Plainfield. I went to school in Mount Ida. College, UMass Amherst. I actually bought up the property now. Then I transferred over to William Patterson. Played a year there, and then I started coaching. When I first started coaching, I coached in South Plainfield. Actually, ironically enough, I went back, home, coached the quarterbacks over there. Then my journey kind of just picked up over there. I went from, South Plainfield to Colts Neck. I was an OC over there. Then I went to Neptune, pass game coordinator in Neptune with Coach Tariq Holman. Then I, got my first head coaching gig in Parsippany High School, where I was a head coach over there for 2 years, and then I got to the North, trying to be the king of the North now, So, and this will be my third season in North Plainfield as a head coach right now.
North Plainfield's a place that they've had some good years. They've been up and down over the years. What is it like to really take over a program and try and really try to build a tradition in there? Because where you came from originally, like South Plainfield, and that's a place that has originally had a little bit more tradition there. What is it like to really take over a program and build up a tradition and from the ground up? What is that like?
I think number one thing, you look at it as, the journey is everything, right? So I feel like the places that I have been kind of set me up for what I'm going through right now. I was in, like you said, South Plainfield, where tradition, the football tradition's heavy. I was part of it as a player, part of it as a coach. We kind of helped rebuild there. Same thing in Neptune. Football's huge in Neptune. Just getting involved with the community down there and just seeing, the importance of how to tie in the community with administration, with football and things that we're trying to do as a coaching staff to, my 2 journeys as a head coach. And just the things that you pick up along the way, like, we're teaching tradition. I think North has a tradition of good, tough football. I think when they got into realignment, now that we're in a GMC, more of a GMC based league, it's
Right.
prime for me because I played there as a player. However,
Yeah.
North Plainfield isn't from, that area. They don't play very many games in that area. So now I think, with the mix of me and, that brand of football getting mixed with that GMC, now I think we're starting to see exactly what, needs to be done. And I don't think you need to change, right? I think toughness, is what is going to get us through. And, my kids now, my sophomore class now, they'll be seniors. I had them for 3 years. There's, I got a good nucleus, about 22 kids, that I had for the last 2 years coming back. And I think that that's important right now. I think they understand me. The school understands us. I think everyone, will understand, the type of football they'll see on Route 22 this year.
With respect from how you try to change the culture, what are some of the things that you really had to do to really change the culture of the program?
So I think old coaches, like guys like my age or a little bit older, like back in my day, and all that stuff. But I don't really like to do that much. However, I think the weight room was a major staple growing up. I mean, it literally changed the trajectory of my career as a player. And I try to tell them, I'm like, listen, I put on 30 pounds, I think, in my junior going into senior year, just to take on the beating of what we call a high school football season. And I
Mhm.
think that's where it starts. I don't think you can avoid that at all. I think as much as football wants to evolve and everybody wants to do what they see on television, I think if you don't have the strength, if you're not able to go out and be physical, and run the ball and tackle and block, I think the fundamentals of football really start in the weight room. So the last 2 years we've been pumping that a lot, and just teaching football from a foundational or fundamental standpoint. Um, it has been monumental for our kids. I mean, our offensive line, pretty much all those guys come back, and our tailbacks, and like you can really see how kids have grown up through that, through that mantra of just staying in the weight room, making sure you're picking up some extra work on the field by yourselves, right? Everything can't be coach driven, right? We all know good culture is player driven more than it is coach driven. So just the fact that I've been preaching that for the last, 2.5 years, and now in year three, like you can't drive past our football field without a football kid on it, or the weight room can't be open without a football kid in it. And I think those are the things that, have kind of, changed around here for sure.
And what are some of like so this year's a big transition year, right? So you got your sophomore group that you started with is going to be seniors. The freshmen are your group that's going to be juniors. Like what are your numbers looking like right now? And what can what are you looking forward to? Because now you're starting to get those younger guys that have been playing as a young age. Now they're going to be up, and they're going to be older guys. What can we expect there?
So yeah, so I think right now we are about 50 on the roster. Of that 50, 30 are kids that have played for me already, right? So we're
Yeah,
almost
that's
at
huge.
a complete split, and there's with that being said, there's kids now in the school that haven't really been involved with football that are now interested, right? Because
Of
you
course.
got 50 kids walking around the school, whether they're coming in, a couple of freshmen, coming in, and they see that their friends are, part of something that is growing, they want to be a part of it. So, with that 50 number now, I wouldn't be surprised, hit August, another, 10 to 12 kids, come out again. So, we're rooting for the 60 number at least for this year, right? I think that's something that's obtainable. But like I said, nothing sells your program like word of mouth, and them seeing their friends walk around the building, 15 pounds, heavier, definitely visibly stronger. Um, it has been a real
Absolutely.
big selling point, for the kids around here. And no matter if you've played or or you've never, put on a helmet or picked up a football, and a lot of those kids are becoming interested. So I think that's why we do it, right? Like, the kids are getting involved that have never played before just
Right.
because of what you're preaching,
Right.
or
And
how
look,
it's
and
affecting
that's
other
kind of one of
people.
the things too, right? Like coach, like, and that's kind of like what you do. Like when you get into a building, right? It's one of the first things is like, hey, let me recruit the hallways, right? Like there's got to be at least 10 dudes walking around this place that for some way, shape or reason just haven't been involved with football itself. And now you start to see, those guys now start to see their friends, promoting the program and seeing the positive things that are coming from playing football, and now they want to be a part of it, right? So that's always a big piece of the entire puzzle, but that takes time to get going, right? You can't just that doesn't happen
Mhm.
year one where all of a sudden you have 20 new players out for a team. It takes some time where your own roster needs to get comfortable with you playing. And that's I think part of a huge part of when you take over a program.
Absolutely.
And as far as like your son, like, so what does it look like because that's probably a big thing that has to change a lot, right? Your summer program, what you kind of instituted. What does that look like? Like, what do you guys participate in the summer? How often do you bring those guys in? What is kind of like your summer program look like?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that was, for the kids around here was consistency too, right? Like you want to give them something that, they can hang their hat on. Also for the parents and the people in the community too. We've always had the same, blackout weeks. We've always used the same time schedule, the last 3 years, 8 to 10, Monday through Thursday is football, right? In July, and you're there, right? And if you got to set your schedule up or your vacation time with the parents and all that stuff's important, right? Family first. It kind of gives them a schedule they can give to their parents. If you're a junior, you can look at the calendar and you can give it to mom and dad right now. Like exactly where we'll be, when we'll do it, what time and all that stuff for the next year. And the parents really bought into it as well, so they don't have any problem with getting the kids there either. But Monday through Thursday, we're lifting. We're also throwing the ball around. 7-on-7s. I know these guys, like to, have the opportunity not only to compete, but just to show, like I said, their friends that they are on a different level than they were before.
Right, because they had probably
And
never done some of that stuff in the past, right?
Exactly. So like we throw, and compete, with some teams that we've done this with for the last couple of years, along with, going to some of these tournaments and getting,
Yeah.
the kids an opportunity to be that kid that's, seen by a coach at the college level, or even if
Mhm.
it's just to get a Twitter post about you, about how you
That's
perform,
important.
on a weekend. I think this stuff is tremendous, right? Like we talk about back in the day. Like, remember I brought that up. I'm like, could you imagine if, you know, everything you did could have possibly been on Instagram or Twitter, and you know what I mean? Now you don't have to tell people, all right,
Nope.
you don't have to Moby Dick the situation, right? Tell the people about the whale, right? They can
Yeah,
see
man.
it
2 catches
for
turns into
themselves,
22 catches.
and I think that stuff's part of the game now. You can't avoid it, right? So I think our kids given the opportunity to do stuff like that. We'll do some, combined practices with some, high level teams, in August. We got a nice quad set up with, some guys up in Morris County. Like I like to, be well traveled as well. Just give them experiences that they won't normally have. And then I know we won't be playing week 0. That's part of our off season this year too. So that gives us an extra week. I think that's imperative. Like you said, when we got a lot of young guys, getting used to it, they'll get to, get that game scrimmage in and see a whole weekend of some, some good football. Probably travel down to Battle of the Beach. Shout out to, my boy Tommy down in Manchester. He'll be trying to mix it up in that. Or I know a couple guys down there
You
that'll
got
be
the
down
early
there for
game.
sure. So, I'll try to see some of the guys that I've coached with playing in that game, and then my kids will get an opportunity to see some guys play some high level football before we embark on week 1 against Belleville.
As far as so you mentioned like how kids use social media and to get themselves out there. Like, are there things that you guys do yourself, with North Plainfield to try and promote the program? Do you focus more on promoting the players? What are some of the tools that you use from that standpoint?
Well, I do use Twitter a lot. Twitter and Instagram as well. I'm more of a Twitter guy because I think that it reaches more of that college platform, especially with the huddle highlight reels and things of that nature, so the kids can get that stuff out and repost it. I think Instagram is more for their friends. Facebook, right? They don't have those, right? But that's more
Hell
for
no.
the family. But
They
I
got
think
no clue.
Twitter, I think Twitter has been a major factor. We got some We actually have a one of our former, I think, basketball players now doing some of the photography for us. So I think that's also good, right? Like you don't have to have been a football player to be a
No,
part of our atmosphere, right? And I think it also reaches, the friends, the local community, as
yep,
well as gives that, former Canuck an opportunity to boost his brand. Culture's everything, right? We're not just trying to affect our team, we're trying to affect the entire city. So,
mhm,
doing stuff like that, his platform has grown. Our players, have gotten noticed. They're going on college visits now. Our juniors are taking advantage of those junior days. And then just my connections with some of the, I can even say some of the guys I've even coached at this point, coaching at the next level. So
yeah,
now I get to talk to them, and it starts to age me real fast when,
real fast, buddy.
when you were coaching a guy that's now coaching in college and now recruiting
Yep,
your kids. And, I think that's big, letting them know that, you know, this, it's bigger than just what we see on a daily basis, right? Like get out here, get seen, have some conversations. It can't just be what direct messages on Twitter, right? We need to get you guys face to face with some of these college coaches, and learn to have that conversation, one on one, and see what it's like from somebody else.
right,
So that
right.
stuff's been, tremendous for us too.
Yeah, and
What
that's a
what
big piece of the puzzle.
yeah. Yeah, what is the education of college coaches like with that from that standpoint? Do you have to do a ton of reaching out, right? Because obviously, with like some of the traditional programs, those guys when they reach out, they have a little advantage, right? But then I've been in this situation, so I'm speaking from knowledge here. When I was at Palisades Park, Leonia, and we built it up from horrendous to eventually a powerhouse. Um, but it was a process getting coaches, and this is really pre. I guess Twitter was already starting to be a thing, but it was a pre a lot of the other stuff. But I remember the process of educating people on like, hey, yeah, there are players here, and take a look. What is that process like? Well, what are some of the things that you have to do to educate coaches that you guys got players here? Come take a look.
So I mean, I stay in constant contact with definitely the high school coaches around the area as well. So if
That
they
helps.
if they have a player, right, that I know people are coming to see, that gives me an opportunity to drop a shameless plug for one of my players. So if that guy's around, maybe he can stop by the school for a couple of minutes. Give my player an opportunity. Maybe I'll send them some film when I get that chance to. But I think just traveling to a lot of college and high school football clinics, and like I said, just having those conversations once those coaches understand that you're genuine. And then when that time comes and you do have a player that can play on that level, just sending him that link so he can see it and evaluate it for himself. And then if you get some feedback, and I want honest feedback. You don't have to tell me my guy's going to play at a
Right.
Division I level if he's not. And like I said, with that rapport, I think we're all football coaches at the end of the day. We all have families. We all have players that we want to keep that relationship solid with. So we just have those conversations consistently and just creating a recruiting. I have a recruiting chart. So I send it out when it happens, when that I forgot the actual date this year, but I send it out to all those college coaches on the email threads as soon as that day opens up. And regardless, they can see that I have a 25, 25 this year or 26 next year, and then, I put their GPAs on there, their height, their weight, their 40 times, their Twitters, their
Right, all their
emails, and just
measurables.
yeah, just allowing them to create the picture on their own and then see the film, and then before they have to ask me a question, I've answered about 5 or 6 of the major ones.
Right.
So I think making it easy for those guys to recruit your kids, I guess, is the best way to put it, right?
Right. And I think that's extremely important, especially coming from a program that now you're trying to build, right? Like maybe you just don't have those level of guys right now, right? And obviously, Dave can speak to it on a whole different level, literally taking, Palisades Park, Leonia from, a JV program to a varsity program and then putting guys out at a very high level. I'm sure that's extremely difficult to get traction, even more so, quote unquote, back in the day when Dave had to do it, when it wasn't as easy as just sending huddle links or doing this or doing that. You know what I mean? So, now it's kind of at a level where you can just take it. And now as that traction continues, your program will only grow in terms of getting guys recruited because, in reality, like that's what a lot of these guys are looking for. And, when the coach goes into, a school down the road and they're like, hey, I played against this kid on, North Plainfield, who's a dog, you might want to go check him out. Now it starts to build traction. You start to build your network with all those other guys, and it just kind of grows from there.
Do you tell your kids to go on Twitter to utilize it? Do you advise them to do it? Obviously, all coaches are different. Obviously, you go on Twitter. There's every kid, almost any kid. One of the ways you figure out pretty quickly for the college coaches is obviously the kids who have their Twitter done really well. You, in general, are at least some level of college prospect because most people who aren't college prospects aren't taking the time to do that, right? So now they may be a D3 prospect and there's different levels, but do you see your kids starting to do that? Like one of the things that I saw was kids, like when I first got there and I told them, hey, you might want to email coaches. This is when email worked, not anymore.
Like you had 10
it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm saying back, I used to tell them, and they would, they would do it. And it was like, no,
look at you like, what are you talking about, coach?
And then it was like the Twitter actually started to become a little bit of a thing. In the 2010s, early, 2011, 2012, and we started to utilize that. And I noticed, oh wow, these kids started to create like one by one like profiles, and then I would say, okay, make it look a little more like this. Put your GPA. Do you advise your kids on that process? Do they do it on their own? I don't know. What does that look like?
So at first it starts off with me saying, you see how many Twitter followers I have? I was like, so I might know a thing or two now.
Right, yeah, right. Hey, let me give you a little hint here, buddy. Like I can lead you the way, a little good direction here too. Don't worry, Dave and I use the same thing. We point to that thing all the time. Be like, do you see this? Do you see how many guys we are like are aware of this, dude? Like you might want to check out your platform here.
1000%. But no, yeah, we have those conversations just about how it should be structured. And then I think the best part, like especially nowadays, like kids have to see things before they could tell us something, right? And we'd be like, all right, we believe it. We're gonna go out and do it, right? Now it's it's the show me era, right? So I just pull up a Twitter account that's done really well, and show them that your class should be here, your huddle link should be here, right? This is the type of profile picture you should have. This is how long your huddle should be if you're posting a highlight film. You know what I mean? Right. Your height, your weight. What kind of schools are you trying to attract? What are you retweeting? What are you tweeting yourself? What are you liking? Right? Because on Twitter we see all those things, right? And that's still part of your character, right? What you're watching, what you're saying, so just creating awareness like that I think is important. But I think the biggest way is to show them maybe a highly recruited kid, show them how their Twitter's done, right? And show him what he's retweeting, show what kind of likes he's getting, right? And you're like, well, look, if you want Rutgers or whomever, going down the line to retweet or be interested in you, all right, these are the things that you should be doing, off of the field.
It's a thing that it's really an interesting process to see them start to realize, like you're very active, you post your camp, you're posting, I love how you post the like the GPA and academic stuff of your kids, because I think that makes a difference. And I think it's important because the kids start to understand, like, hey, this is some of the things. If coach is posting this, this is some of the things that must be important, right? You have your parent meeting on there. You're trying to get them to understand it's a community forum, right? Your coaching Twitter page is basically a community forum for everybody to see kind of what's going on with the program, but for them to also start to gravitate to that process. And I'm not super familiar with the GMC other than the times I played GMC teams. I'm not super familiar with the GMC. Like I know of, like where it's from Cranford all the way down to Cranford might be Union County, right? I'm not sure if Cranford's middle. So what it goes from what south? Where does the GMC go from? From South Plainfield, probably in Carteret. That's probably the bottom area, and then to where?
So they've kind of taken the teams that were playing. I think the conference was like the Mid-State 38 and some Union County teams, and then the GMC teams, and they kind of like try to create one of those super conferences. So now in the Big Central. It stretches. It's a pretty far stretch now, So I'm trying to think the farthest north team that's in it to the farthest south team is pretty big.
So the Mid-State combined kind of with the GMC, is that what happened?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
right. Because they were trying to model it like kind of like the North with like the big, all that stuff, like the Super Essex, right? So there's just right. I mean, look, the Shore is just the Shore itself. Like it is what it is. Like you're not even.
So how many teams are in that combined group now? What are they up to as far as team wise?
Gotta be close to 40, right? Something
40.
Like that.
Okay, so
which is about what the Shore is.
Yeah, I think Shore's somewhere in that, maybe a couple more. Right. Okay. So that makes sense.
Somewhere around there, I think it is.
So it's like a super conference thing that's kind of like spreading on. Yeah. So okay.
But I'm sure you at least get a home and home with the teams you're playing in your divisions and stuff up there. Like, the Shore is the only conference in the state that changes divisions every single year, where you don't even get a home and home. They just juggle it and kind of go based off of seeding like that. So you play like, what are some of those teams that you that are on that schedule, right?
Right now, for us?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to Belvedere in the beginning. So
Belvedere?
Yeah.
Like Belvedere, like
yeah. Yes.
Wow, you're taking me back now, man. You're talking Group 1 stuff. Like when I was obviously I went to Butler alma mater status. Like it was every other like year or so. Like we would have to go play Belvedere in the playoffs. Like it was, and that was a hike. But like, wow, I haven't heard that school in a minute. That's what's up. So that's who you're opening up with week 1.
Yes. So that's one of those crossover deals. We're gonna play them in the beginning. But
that's
just
cool.
The teams around here, like you get your South Plainfield, obviously that's a big one.
That's a biggie, right?
That'll be our home opener, right there. So I think, packed house for that.
Yeah.
Canucks win that game, by the way.
And you guys are that's the way to go. And you guys are Group 2, right? So you're playing bigger schools for the most part, right? Is that
right? Yeah.
Well, really, we're Group 3.
Okay, but with in the playoffs, are you Group 3 or Group 2?
3.
3. Okay, because I seen like
3 is tough.
Okay, and then schools like South Plainfield, are they 3 or 4?
South's 3. Right, but we play like New Brunswick, I believe they're a 4. We play JFK, I believe they're a 4. We got Johnson this year. They're a 2, I believe.
Right? Yeah, but a perennial like power team.
But a team that's exactly. They compete at a high level.
Absolutely.
We got Voorhees.
There's
I want to
another
say
one. They're like a different type of
yeah.
team.
So like it's a different type of schedule this year. Some some fours, some twos.
Right, which you always look at a schedule, right? And when you're talking, group ones, twos, threes, um, for people that don't know, right? Obviously, here in New Jersey, we have 5 groups of teams. Group fives are the biggest, group ones are the smallest. And, based off of our PowerPoint system, the bigger the team or the bigger the group, the more quote unquote PowerPoints you get when you play them. And that all helps in your playoff seeding and whatnot. But also, like, you
but
have to
this
have
year,
the
I didn't want to pause you on that one, but
No,
this
you
year
good.
the group size isn't going to matter.
I saw that.
So
Is that crazy?
that's going to be interesting, right? So I think
100%.
Explain
that's
that
big.
to me. Explain that.
So now, now beating someone that's a bigger group than you doesn't get you any points.
Oh,
It's going to be
wow.
based off of the merits of their wins and losses.
Yup.
So now if you go down and you're a 5 and you play a 3, it depends on how good that 3 is, right? And how good that 5 is, right? Just because you're a big 3 and a small 5, right?
Well,
Those
I
two
think
numbers
that
aren't
was,
going to be empirical, right? It's going to be
right. And I think
how
they probably,
good.
that was to encourage, not to cut you off and whatnot, but like that was probably to, obviously to encourage, right? If I'm a group 4, right, and I play a group 1, like, what are the merits of me doing that? Absolutely nothing, right? Because if I win, well, great, you're a group 4, you're supposed to win. But if I lose, now, like, that's god awful. You're a bigger school. You should be beating up on the younger guys, right? So I think it's kind of like a little bit of a ploy so that more people will just start like playing games, right? And doing those kind of things. Because it's always an issue getting games whatnot for the most part, right? Because everybody's always trying to fill a schedule. But like I said, now you can have those where, hey, a good group 1 team can go and play, for me now as like a bigger group 4, it doesn't hurt me to go take that risk to play a group 1, right? So it's aiding those other teams in helping to get
explain it to me. So there's a rating that rating used to have. That's what it's basically going off of, the rating. And then there's no longer PowerPoints?
No, there's still PowerPoints. It's just the way that it's weighed, right? You would
like the algorithm, Dave. Like the
you don't get like 4 times 4.
Right? Yeah. Like the formula itself is kind of like cooked down a little bit. You know what I mean?
So you just get the points. They're group 4. You get like group 4 plus how many their wins, basically, like similar like that, instead of
right. And I think
you get
like based off like a strength index too, right?
Yeah,
that's how you know I've been out of the game.
Yeah, you almost had the old BCS system back in the day.
Yeah.
Hey, man, whatever works, man. Come on, man. Listen, we're the only state that does like this craziness stuff anyway, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, our system is so wild. It always has been. It is what everybody wants to, the parochials this, and let's give points for playing a parochial. We'll give you double the points. So teams are like, all right, I'll just go lose by 50.
Multiplier,
I'll still make the playoffs going 3-6 or whatever.
Is that still there? Is the multiplier still there?
No, I think the multiplier, it's like, yeah, that's switched up too.
You can lose it. You could start with it and lose it. I think that's kind of how it works this year.
Yeah, like if you like, obviously, Dave, like, you think about like some of my previous stops where we were a multiplier and, kind of asking yourself, like, how am I still a multiplier? Right. So I think that tab has somewhat gone away at certain places, because if you don't stay up to that level of being worth a multiplier, well, then, what's the deal? Right. Why would you do that? Well, okay. So now it's kind of, they take it away if you don't live up to a certain level.
So if a team that had a multiplier starts losing a bunch of games,
and the multiplier goes away, so it's like,
because otherwise the team who scheduled it, though, the team who scheduled it thinking they were getting them.
Well, I think that's something that's done like beforehand. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, they're going to lose this multiplier. Don't schedule these guys thinking you're getting a multiplier.
Oh man, that seems
welcome back, buddy. This is why you're living life
even more complicated than before. I might have to go on one of these committees.
I told you what you're doing now is so much better than this shit that we live in now, bro. Just keep freaking coaching your kid and loving life because this shit sucks, man. It's crazy.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. That would drive me nuts.
And they also took away like.
And then
like,
are they still doing the rating where you come in with like, you're like if you have been losing, your pre-rating is low, right? Which is a
strength index.
Yeah, which is a pain in the butt because it's going to take – you're going to have to really, like, win a lot of games to get your rating up, even if –
absolutely.
Where you start from is a big deal. Am I right or am I wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong.
So it's going to depend on who you're playing.
Okay.
Where you start from. Yeah,
yep.
So if you're accruing wins – the biggest thing is who you're playing and are you beating the teams that are going to get wins because then you're going to get residuals from them when they win. So if you're beating an 0-5 team, and you play them and then they end up being 0-8, like you're not going to get any residuals and all you're going to get is, what it costs for beating them. So, like D said earlier, like it's really going to go to, leveling the playing field and getting out there, putting the football down on the ground and playing some football. So we should really start getting some, really good games towards the end of the year instead of getting those senior games where people are winning 42-0. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think those nights, that's where it's going to affect it the most, right? Are you a coach that's going out and, trying to schedule that game? That's, we've been playing it for 20 years and this is.
Oh, yes, I know. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to, it's going to be crunch time and you're going to need a game on senior night, and you're going to have to go.
And it's going to matter.
It's going to matter. So I think stuff like that will be interesting.
Well,
especially when the cutoff date is and stuff like that. So,
yes.
And with the way that we play, like you said, the schedule is going to flip. So you'll get 2 years playing the same schedule. I believe it's going to stay that way. But if it does, then, the next year you're going to have to play that team on the road. So that's going to affect, your senior night. And you're probably going to play from now on until that changes. You're probably going to play a tough game.
Right.
Depending on where you want to get seated. I
Correct.
think nobody's
now, and especially now. Seed. Right, especially now with how they seed it, 1-16, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that stuff matters too. And, listen, end of the season, everybody's looking at, okay, we could have these people, or if this happens, then we got this person, then we're doing this, but they run this. So we got to start preparing for, it's like, it just gets crazy. And it just creates a lot of, listen, it's another thing that now a coach has to factor in, like guys don't have enough to do already, but now you got to start like really looking at your schedule. It's like, and look, and if you're in one of those programs, like I got to sit down with my athletic director and be like, look, I know we've played these guys forever, but we need to kind of take a look at maybe talking about going to play these guys or going to play this team. And I think the other thing that's kind of funny too, right, is they used to that week 0 game when guys would travel out of state. Now they're not matching up like it used to be. Oh, however big that team was out of state, we'll go get those PowerPoints and like we'll give you those because they're this size school in their state. Like totally wiped out. Doesn't matter. Like whatever you do out of state is what you do out of state. Who cares, right? It's just it's nonchalant.
So that doesn't factor. That doesn't factor.
It's literally nothing. Like you just going to play a team from wherever for whatever. Like you don't get any point. Doesn't give you anything for going down to play Schuman. Doesn't give you anything to go and play Duncanville. All good. Like nothing. So like other than the experience and all that kind of stuff, right? Like talking about getting guys recruited, maybe like more eyes or whatever. Like now guys maybe factor like, hey, why am I going to play these hammers under the sun, right? Or
what was the rationale for that? I'm curious. What was the rationale for that not giving those like games any kind of rating? Is it just?
I just think it was so much to do with. I think it was just like so much to do with like like just another thing to add on to it, right? Like all right, and for the most part, like when guys go out of state, I always feel like the other than like if you win, right, or like if you're unstoppable, which brings notoriety to New Jersey itself, like The NJSAIA don't want to deal with you going out to freaking Texas or knowing what you're doing or doing all that. It's just more for them to police in general. They got enough to worry about with transfer portals and 1-year transfers. And all right, well, now we're going to get like seniors aren't going to have to sit because, when certain individuals come calling, like there ain't no way you're saying no to that guy. I don't think so, but that's just my thing. But I think it's just too much for them to do it, Dave. Like they don't want to. I think it's just, hey, we'll just make it one thing across the board. If you want to travel, go travel. Good for you. But it means nothing when you come back here to New Jersey other than for your own team, maybe mentality, right? Because, hey, we went and played these guys. Nobody in Jersey is as good as these guys. So maybe it's something like that, but, I'm just spitballing.
No, it could be. I think, for the kids, like you said, I think that it could be a good, experience, see what it's
I love
like, to get on the road, get out of the state. Right?
Yeah,
I
man.
think it's also,
like, go see something else. Get out of your little protective bubble of this is what it is and go realize, like, look, I know mommy and daddy tell you you're the greatest thing since sliced bread and you should be going to Alabama. But, like, let's go play a kid that really is going to Alabama. Now you get a whole different perspective. And now it saves your season because you ain't got to meet with mommy and daddy every other week about playing time. So you're good. Like,
But if you're, but I do think, recruiting wise, you get out there and you do get to see, another brand of football, but you also, get to play against somebody at another, high level program, and those kids get, those opportunities to make those plays, and maybe you increase, your stock. Like I said, the camera follows you everywhere. So if you get the opportunity, to make a play, like look how big, Odell Beckham's catch gets, the one hand grab. I mean, everybody makes a one hand grab now. You know what I mean? It's almost like,
man.
In every game, there's a one hand grab. But when it first happened, it
was like,
whoa,
wow, I never
you
saw that
couldn't miss
before.
it.
Like, oh.
Yeah. So I think it gives, Jersey kids that platform, to produce, I think for me, the known fact that Jersey football is high level football across the country, not just in this area. I still think we're one of the top states. So I like to see that stuff. Especially when you definitely got the kids that, can definitely take advantage of those opportunities and let those families travel. I mean, God knows how much money they're paying to go to these schools. So, it's good to see, that stuff going out there and getting allocated the right way.
Does any of the I won't say the word recruiting, but recruiting stuff affect you guys where you're situated, or are you kind of in a better area to fight that stuff off?
I think that stuff's always at play, right? I think the biggest problem of it, right, is the fact that it happens on television every day, right? The fact that, guys in the NBA or in the NFL, or, what I mean, the kids that are dropping in the transfer portal and the NCAA, like, because, I believe because people consume it every day, that it starts to become the norm when
it's just here all the time.
Before, it didn't matter. It did not matter if you won or you lost. It mattered, right, when you stepped on the field. Like, it mattered when you put the football down in the middle of the grass, because this is before we're talking everybody had turf, right? Because AstroTurf was terrible. I remember just screaming my knees up. But you take the ball, put it down on the grass, like it's you 7 from over there versus us 7 from over here, winner takes all. And then as you grew up, like in the back, you're playing those games in the grass while the real football game's going on. But we all know that the football game that's the most important is the one that's happening over there by the bleachers, right? Because those kids are going to soon be the kids that are on the football field. And, just playing for, the town that you live in, the jersey that, I was always number 7. I was always number 11. Like growing up, like you didn't have to pick those numbers, right? Like once you got it when you were 11, it was what you wore when you were 18. And
it matters.
Because that's, no longer the norm. And in some places it is, right? But for the most part, it's changed because, there's no more Larry Bird, Magic Johnsons for forever, right? There's no more.
Right, one team for the jump. Like you don't see that.
There's no more Jordan and the Bulls versus the Bad Boys or the Pistons or the Knicks. Going against Reggie Miller and the Pacers, like that stuff.
Right, you saw the same group of guys year to year competing against each other to kind of like go at it. And because this is what these guys consume on a daily basis in terms of like, hey, it's just it's really kind of like for me, especially growing up in a traditional program where that stuff mattered, right? Like I could tell you every football player that went to Butler High School that wore number 2 before I did, just because I was like, that's what it is, right? Like those are the things that I think, like you said, because they consume it every day and they're watching a Heisman winner in Caleb Williams come from another school, right? Or these other guys that have transferred to this place. They're on their 4th school, but they're still highly like successful. These guys think like that's a path and like a more of a positive way or whatever to go about it. But because they consume, that's what they consume on the regular. Now they start to like think that into reality. And then ultimately it becomes reality because everybody that's around them is telling them like, you got to do what's best for you. You got to take care of you. You got to, and I understand all that, but there is something to be said about the dude that's the backup that just wants to work,
One of the things
I love. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Coach.
What Arch Mann is doing over in Texas, right?
Dude, I think that's one of those things that's like totally like mind blowing the entire nation and the country in terms of like, why is this dude staying when he could be going? And we're not even talking about like NIL or any of that other kind of stuff, right? Like he could just go and play based off of pure like talent. And like he's not.
Well, I think he's, and I agree with you. It is great, but he's also in a different situation than a lot of other people, right? So
you don't have to.
Let's call it as it is. You know what I mean? Like from that standpoint,
you want to talk about LeBron James?
He's probably pretty safe. That once he does get on the field, that he's going to be in a good position from an NFL standpoint if he's as good as everyone says he is. Right. And then he's also in a different, probably economic situation than a lot of other people growing up.
I would say so.
Even though his father didn't play in the NFL, he was very successful in business. You know what I mean? Obviously, and has 2 brothers that were as successful as it comes. So,
excuse me, Uncle Peyton, can you get me a pair of cleats? Like,
and his grandfather, obviously, his grandfather was a
grandfather.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're seeing that, though. There is a lot more ex-pro athletes that have kids that are at that level. Obviously you've seen it with LeBron, right? So I do think that maybe could be a positive effect from that standpoint. I don't know.
He's one of like God knows, right? Like
it is interesting because if he does succeed and is patient, then I do think and has success at the end of the rainbow, quote unquote, right? Like so. But then I think you might see other players saying, you know what, okay, patience can be, and you may need someone like an Arch Manning who's in the situation he's in, a better situation to be able to take that chance. Right. And if he succeeds, other kids can say, you know what, maybe I could take that chance too because it did work out. I developed. So it will be interesting to see. I mean, listen, it's a good route to go. And the other thing I was thinking about, I'm curious if I'm wrong or I'm right on this, but the fact that the out-of-state play doesn't get like, let's say, Don Bosco or Burton Catholic played like a Modern Day or something, and they get all these PowerPoints and all this, the old system, all kinds of scores from it. I think it does make it where I agree with you guys. If you want to play out of state, you can play out of state, but it's not an arms race for public schools, especially because public schools feel it the most. Meaning, the private schools go and play out of state. They get power ratings because this team is really good. Any team that plays those parochial schools gets a boost. Now I feel like I have to go play out of state. Now I don't have to worry about that. If I want to play out of state, I can play out of state for the basically the purity of my kids getting more exposure, playing another team versus trying to play. You happen to play a better quote unquote opponent to boost my playoff thing and to keep those schools from recruiting my players, you know what I mean? Because I didn't play out of state, right? So I think that's actually, as I started to think about as you guys were talking, I actually think that's probably a pretty good thing. It keeps it a little more pure in a sense as the motivations for playing out of state.
Absolutely, because like you said, now it's not an arms race where, all right, these guys take 5 of my best guys because, you know, obviously appeal is, you know, hey, we're going out of state, we get more exposure, all that kind of jive. All right, well, now, like, I don't have to go and, like, now I feel like if I want to match up or try and keep those 5 kids with me, well, damn, I better go play an out-of-state game or I better go do some of that. Now, like, if that doesn't yield any of that, you know, that would be, you know, a lot better. Like, and obviously for those programs, like, now you don't have to do that.
Coach, before I let you go, just wanted to so people can follow you on Twitter, can reach out to you. It's been a great conversation. Love to have you. Maybe after the season, you can declare some X's and O's to us. We can talk some more of that stuff before the season. We'll stay away from that. You know, we don't want to give away anything. But especially since you play South Plainfield, you know, they probably have their ears on it as well. Where can they find you? On Twitter?
Be like, this guy right here. How can he take the job across town?
Where can they find you on Twitter, Instagram, you know, and reach out to you, Coach?
So my Twitter and my Instagram, they're both the same. It's at Coach_Eatman, EATMAN, and then you guys can follow me there. And like I said, you know, the Canucks. The Canucks on week 2. I wish I could get you guys to come there, right? Because, you know, it's.
You tell me what a Canuck is.
Everybody asks that question when they hear it, right? But, you know, you just gotta. Well, I looked it up. You know, I did some research. You know, and for me, it's just a tough person from North Plainfield. That's what
I like it. Nice. Good job, Coach. Nice job, man. You've been in this for a while. Nice job, buddy. Nice job. I appreciate it, man.
We're always ready to go to work. So that's what a Canuck is to me.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Great conversation. I learned a ton. To me, that's the most important thing. I learned a ton from you today, and best of luck with the season, and you know, keep building that program up, you know, brick by brick, man. That's what it takes. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh wow, we're darn good now. You know, but that's what it takes, and then everybody jumps on at that point.
Yeah. Listen, man, if there's anybody that knows how to build a program from whatever, like Dave's done it numerous times, and we're talking from like the ground up, bro. And like, you know, I mean, from a JV program to a state final in like, you know, a couple years and just run the table. So listen, man, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on, man. We'll talk, you know, all the best, and we'll talk soon, buddy. Appreciate you.
All
right, Coach.
Thanks again. That was a
lot of
fun.
I just
want to give a shout out to my staff and my wife.
Oh, hell yeah.
That make me great at this, my family and all that stuff too. Thanks for all watching.
Absolutely. All right, Coach, have a great weekend, July 4th weekend. Enjoy, and we'll see you soon.
Be good, dog. Later.
All right. That was great. I'm going to jump off because I'm getting kicked out of my house, the house I'm staying in right now. So
11, gotta go.
It's time to go. It was a great podcast. I learned a bunch. Actually, that shows how I'm out of the loop because
there's no reason that you would even like know any.
Yeah, I learned a bunch of stuff about the state and but actually I think some of those things are good. Some of them are confusing, you know, but.
Listen, you know how it is. They're always going to do something to screw around with it or tweak it or do something. It never stays the same, ever.
Absolutely. All right. Let me let you
run.
All right,
good.
We'll see you.